Hello, everyone. Welcome to Superhero with the Cane, podcast number 2. I am Michael O'Grady, and today we're going to dedicate this time to me telling my story, which I think is important. It's a bit of a complicated one, but screw it. I think it's important to this. So we'll start on Route 287 South in Piscataway, New Jersey. If anybody is from New Jersey or has ever been to New Jersey, Route 287 is an absolute friggin' nightmare. So it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and I am on the shoulder, sound asleep. I was traveling from an appointment I had from the office, which is up in Branchburg, to um, a house in, I really don't remember. But anyway, I couldn't make it. I was so tired, like ridiculously tired. I had to pull over and go to sleep, and I was probably slept for about 20 minutes or so. And after that, that's when I was in sales for in the heating and air conditioning business. So I had decided that I was going to leave a position I had where I was running sales departments and doing sales myself and trying to do many things, and go ahead and go just do sales. So this is the result of that. This is like a month into me just making this decision and starting a new job. It was an absolute nightmare. And the house I ended up going to, I mentioned it in the first podcast, the homeowners took one look at me after I came down from their attic and wanted to call 911. I was in such bad shape. I was, about to pass out. Couldn't even cognitively understand what they were saying to me. So I started there, but let me back up. Several years earlier, I had gone to work for a different company. I'd been the owner of my own partners in my own business, which I also did sales, and I ran department meetings and all the things that go along with being a business owner. But I was very much in charge of sales, and I left and decided that my issues were family related. I wanted to provide more for my family, and I knew there was something there that was bothering me. I could not physically do it anymore, and I didn't know why. But I remember I'm sitting in a cell. I left and I went to this new company. So it's in the middle of July, which is the prime time for the air conditioning business. And I had a meeting with some networking guy, some guy that was in a networking group I was part of. I really don't know why I would have a meeting in July in the air conditioning business with this guy, but I did. And the guy, I remember him asking me a simple question, and I could not answer. I could not process what he told me. I froze up. I remember sitting there like what is happening to me? I don't even understand what this guy's asking me. And for the look on his face, I guess he thought I was having a fucking seizure or something. I looked like I froze up. I couldn't fucking talk. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening to me? So, yeah, that is the start. And I realize now, like I say that, and at the time I was just always, I mentioned it in podcast number 1. I was always just, go, work, 70 hours a week. I get up 4 o'clock in the morning, go to work, or go to the gym, then I go to work, then I get home at 8 o'clock at night. I'd have to work some Saturdays half day, I'd have to work Sundays occasionally. I was just always a go guy. So I didn't realize, I just thought I had to work through it. I tried my Tony Robbins crap where I, try to give myself more energy, and um, it just wasn't fucking working. And it's funny because I'm gonna fast forward from that point. My numbers have been starting to drop. Um, it's funny because me and my good friend Rich, who we own the company together for years. Um, I don't know if I even told him this, but I think I had MS and was having issues from it back when I was the owner of my own company because I was a maniac. I tracked everything in sales. I was very good at sales, but I also was a numbers guy. So I used to look at what my closing percentage was, like after 5 o'clock, after 6 o'clock. Um, and the numbers were so low that I made the decision that I wasn't going to run any more leads after 5 o'clock at night because my closing rate was too low. It made no sense to me. And I never thought about, well, why? Why is that? And I think it was because the fatigue, the cognitive issues, all that crap from MS had been creeping in. So let's fast forward. Um, I'm struggling. I'm in pain. I'm back pain, joint pain. Can't remember stuff. I'm cognitively I'm struggling. And I thought, all right, a change of scenery was going to do the trick. So I went ahead and I decided to leave the company I was at. I was going to just do sales. Well, that didn't work out because I told you the story about Route 287. Well, then all of a sudden, in the meantime, I'm still doing. Oh my God, I'm so freaking tired right now. This is what you get. I have fucking primary progressive MS. I'm doing a podcast, so this is what you get. I'm tired. Um, so anyway, I was at a company that was supposed to going to be my big reliever. I was overworked. I was stressed. I was just going to go do sales, and here I am on Route 287, like I started with, asleep, and then people are going to call the ambulance on me. So I went ahead and I got another job offer, which was a little bit closer to home, a little bit less responsibility. Um, I thought that would be the move for me. Well, day 5 of my new job, um, I had to call my wife, and I'm like, I am asleep at my desk. People are talking to me, and I can't process what they're saying. I feel like I'm about to pass out. I was exhausted. So she said she knew the struggles I've been having for a while. So she said to me, "All right, you need to go home. We need to go to the hospital." And that was not me. I was not a hospital doctor. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't go to the doctor. I just worked through it. And it was bad because I was like, you know what? You're right. We have to. And so that resulted in a trip to the emergency room, in which I was told by the emergency room doctor, uh, there's nothing really wrong with you. The emergency room is for sick people. Maybe you should go home. This is what I was told by the emergency room doctor. Fucking amazing, right? So after some convincing, they decided to admit me. They admitted me, and they booked me for MRIs, and I had doctors and all sorts of tests. It was at that time, at night, my heart rate was dropping down to 25 beats per minute. They discovered a lesion on my brain, um, and they didn't know what was wrong with me. When I met with the neurologist, they said that, well, maybe the lesion is from Lyme disease. So I'm in the hospital for a few days of tests. And while I'm in the hospital, sorry, I keep forgetting shit. So while I'm in the hospital, my primary care doctor comes in to see me. I didn't even ask to see him. He just shows up. Now, this is a guy, I forgot all about this. I had gone and seen him that summer. I saw him the year before. and told him about these problems. I forgot all about that. So he comes in, he goes, well, last time that you were in, we ran some blood work and it shows that you have Epstein-Barr disease. So Epstein-Barr is chronic fatigue syndrome. Everyone that has MS, from what I'm told, again, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but everyone that has MS has Epstein-Barr disease. Not everybody with Epstein-Barr has MS, just to make sure you clarify that. So yeah, he comes in and says, you have Epstein-Barr, I get these MRIs, you got a lesion, they say you think it's from Lyme disease. Somebody recommends that we go see a Lyme disease specialist, which we went to see. And so a year and a half, 2 years, probably a year and a half of seeing this guy, all out of pocket. None of this is covered by insurance. He ran some kind of voodoo tests where I think he, puffs of smoke and some feathers over my head, and decided that he said, "Well, you don't have Lyme disease, but you may have had Lyme disease, and now you have a co-infection, which is why the tests are showing that they're inconclusive. So I think you may have a co-infection of Lyme disease." So for a year and a half, I had to pay out of pocket to go see this Lyme disease doctor. Uh, all the time, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I wish I was getting better. I'm getting worse. I'm starting to fall. My gait issues are worse. I am. I remember actually when I peed, it burned so bad that I had to go to my primary care, and he looked at it, he's like, "You don't have any infection. You're on so many antibiotics right now from your Lyme disease doctor that anything you had would have been killed." So this is the bizarre crap that you go through trying to get diagnosed with the MS. And it was finally, as you could imagine, I'm in my 40s. I'm struggling to pay bills, struggling to pay the mortgage of this house we just bought. I can't keep running the leads I've been running. I can't keep my sales numbers up. I am just an absolute mess. Um, so I went to, thank God, I had to meet with an attorney that we had hired because of our financial situation. He was trying to help us save our house. And as I'm sitting there at lunch with this dude, uh, I'm falling asleep. I am falling asleep at lunch, and he looked at me and he's like, "Dude, what is wrong with you?" Well, it turns out that he starts asking me questions that, unless you knew these specific questions to ask, um, and you had somebody that was living with MS, you would never know to ask these questions. Well, it turns out his wife had MS, and she had gone to many doctors and went down the same road as me, and ended up seeing a doctor from Robert Johnson. I mentioned his name, Dr. Jalbert, and she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So me and my wife said, "Well, we got to go." So we made an appointment. We went to see him. Um, Is this too boring? This is good shit? All right. Yeah. I have to check in with my authority. So, so I'm working. This is all the time. I'm still working. So we go to see Dr. Jalp. We get an appointment. He's from Robert Johnson. He's an MS specialist. In the meantime, I tell my Lyme disease doctor, who, I'm sorry, I'm not saying his name, but I fucking hate him, that we think we're going to see an MS doctor. He has the balls to say to me, a lot of people think that Lyme disease and MS are the same disease. I'm sorry, I am not a doctor, but that is a fucking ridiculous statement to make. And he said that to me and my wife. He got upset because we were seeking a second opinion. So for a year and a half, we've been paying out of pocket to go see this guy every month, paying for antibiotics that weren't working. And we said, you know what, we want to go see an MS specialist. And he got mad. So after I went to see Dr. Jalbert a couple of times. Of course, he sent me for MRIs, which showed I had more lesions because he actually did pull up the MRI from a couple years earlier where I said I had one lesion. Now I had a few lesions. And now that not only did I have lesions on my brain, I had lesions in my spine. Um, a lesion is, I guess, when it's an area gets so, your nervous system is so deteriorated that it shows up. Um, the same day I got told I had lesions on my spine as well is the day that we had to go for the other test, which is the spinal tap. Now, anyone that has ever gone through a spinal tap realizes it's not a lot of fun. They're puncturing a hole through your spine to take spinal fluid out. Um, One of the things that they said to me was, you need to go home and lay flat on your back for the rest of the day because you don't want to develop a spinal leak. Well, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the hospital calls us and says, hey, we made a mistake. We were supposed to draw blood when we did the spinal tap. You need to come back or else you're going to have to do this all over again. So at 5 o'clock, when I should have been on my back, I'm driving in a car with my wife back to the hospital, walking through multiple floors to get the blood work done. Well, guess what? I developed a spinal leak. You get a spinal headache because the fluid that fills up your spine into your brain floats in this fluid. You don't have enough of it. So it's basically like your brain is touching your skull. Anyone that's ever had a headache, I'm sorry, you haven't had a headache until you've had a spinal headache. It feels like your brain is coming out of your head. This is how bad it hurts. So this is what I had, a spinal leak and a spinal headache. So the only way to fix it, I had to go get a blood patch, they call it, where they take some of your blood, they inject it back into this site where they did the spinal tap, and they try to stop the leak. So with all that fun is how I finally got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I was and Dr. Jabba was actually, the one thing that was very good was he sent us to a second opinion, an MS specialist, which we went and saw. And it was through that second opinion that that doctor said, you know what, I believe that you're not just relapsing or remitting. We believe that you've progressed. You're, bordering on secondary progressive. You might have actually crossed over. So you're experiencing symptoms all the time. At this point, I was falling down a lot. My gait was terrible. My memory was terrible. How are we doing on time?
17.
Oh, 17 in?
Yeah, 17 minutes.
Okay. I gotta check time. So what happens is I continue to try to work for a good year after that. I went to a company where was local. I thought I was going to be able to just do sales or just do some like consulting type work, and it was a nightmare. I ended up in that time period. I ended up. I had already mentioned podcast number one. I already crashed my truck on the parkway and totaled it. So now I had a new truck or a new SUV. So what happened was finally I was going to meet with the service technicians at this company. I pulled into the parking lot and drove right into the back of a truck, and this was at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I just was so tired. So I realized at that point it was time for me to stop working. So I went on temporary disability, which eventually led to full-time disability. That took about a year and a half to happen. Michelle, my wife, had to go back to work at that. She'd gone back to work earlier. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. She had gone back to work earlier when my numbers started to fall off and the kids were getting older. So she knew we needed the income and we needed to relieve some of the stress. And but she had gone back to work, and now I was going to have to stop working because it was too dangerous. I'm falling down. I'm crashing cars. What's next? I don't know. um, I did manage to coach my son's little league team during this process. I don't know how, but I did. Um, it was tough. So that was back in. I was officially diagnosed in 2012. 2014 is when I had to go on Social Security disability. It took about a year, and I used an attorney that was recommended for the our MS support group, Greg Hobby, who's awesome. We'll talk about Greg Hobby in the future, and he helped me get approved. Took about a year, but it wasn't enough. Um, we ended up. I just have to say this. I used to be very good at what I did and used to be able to work my butt off. When you take that away, um, that leads to not enough income. And when you can't pay your bills, um, we ended up getting our house foreclosed on, and I had declared bankruptcy. Um, it was a mess. When you can't pay your bills, and you can't survive. And the one thing I'd say is, I didn't have private disability insurance, which is, some people are fortunate to have that. But I guess, you know, uh, Social Security disability doesn't pay a lot, but I guess I'm glad that it's something. You know what? It's something that I can rely on to help feed my family and pay some of our bills. And so I'm thankful for that. You know, what's happened since then? I had written a book back in 2014, A Dab with MS, Some Superheroes Have a Cape and a Cane. And, what's happened is my disease has progressed. I, um, I ended up realizing that it made sense for me I had to switch doctors. Um, I had met with a doctor, Dr. Duncan from Jersey Shore um, MS Center, who had come to speak at our support group several times. I established a relationship with him where I was able to actually sit down and talk about my disease. He was much closer, so he was able to take a look at my disease um, from scratch. We started everything from scratch, and he ended up deciding that, you're not secondary progressive. You were never relapsed or remitting because you've always been primary progressive MS, which makes sense because I never had a point where things went away completely. I, always had a gradual decline that just got worse and worse and worse. So it is what it is, I guess. I've said it before. This disease sucks. It's not a lot of fun. Today, I use a cane. I use a walker full time. I go to therapy, and I'm fading as we speak because I've already had therapy today, and the day is as we get close to 12 o'clock. I have to go to sleep for a while, but today I'm living with primary progressive MS, and I'm in a clinical trial for a new drug that they're trying to see will help, and we will see. I have looked into things like spinal taps. I've looked into things like stem cell. Um, Not a good candidate for that. I have gone down the nutrition route, gluten-free organic, the Walsh protocol. I have done that multiple times. I still eat relatively healthy. So that's where we are right now. Um, I think that's a good spot to end it, right? All right. So that's the end of podcast 2. That is my story, and I am sticking to it. I am Michael O'Grady, and I look forward to seeing you in podcast 3. Thank you.